So, when a huge construction project runs late, it's not just some minor inconvenience. We're talking about a financial catastrophe. The big question is, who ends up paying for it all? Well, today we're going to investigate the investigators, the people who answer that billion-dollar question. This is forensic schedule analysis. Just imagine this for a second. A brand new airport is a full year behind schedule and billions with a B over budget. The owner's screaming that it's the contractor's fault. But the contractor? They're pointing the finger right back, blaming the owner for endless changes and waffling. So, who's on the hook for this colossal mess?
In situations like these, the finger-pointing starts almost immediately. Claims and counterclaims start flying back and forth, and they often just spiral into these incredibly complex, super expensive legal battles. But at the heart of it all, there's really just one simple question. What actually caused the delay?
To solve a puzzle this complicated, opinions are totally worthless. You need a specialist, someone who can cut right through all that noise and just follow the facts. You need a forensic schedule analyst who's like part data scientist, part project manager, and 100% detective. This deep investigation is called forensic schedule analysis, and let me tell you, it's about as far from guesswork as you can get. It is a methodical science. These analysts use the project's own data to meticulously reconstruct the timeline, showing exactly how one tiny, seemingly small issue can ripple through the entire plan and cause a massive, project-killing delay.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. The analyst's job isn't actually to assign blame. It's to establish a factual, objective sequence of events. You have to think of them as impartial examiners, just sifting through mountains of data to build a clear, evidence-based history of the project, separating cause from effect.
And, just like any good detective, their whole investigation hinges on solid evidence. But instead of fingerprints or DNA, their evidence is the project's own documentation, a huge digital paper trail that, if you know how to read it, tells the true story. So what's in their evidence locker? Well, there are 3 essential files. First, you've got the baseline schedule. This is the original game plan everyone agreed on at the start. Second, the regular schedule updates. You can think of these as the weekly progress reports coming in from the field. And third, the as-built data. This is the final, undeniable record of what actually went down.
Okay, now before a single calculation is even made, the analyst has to perform the most critical step of all, source validation. They have to meticulously check that the data is complete, that it's accurate, and, most importantly, that it hasn't been manipulated. Because look, an analysis is only as good as its evidence. Flawed data guarantees a flawed conclusion. It's that simple.
So, once the evidence is authenticated, the analyst opens up their toolkit, and while there are dozens of super complex techniques, they all really stem from 2 fundamental philosophies for cracking the case. The first philosophy is called observational. This is kind of like reviewing the project's security footage, right? The analyst just compares the plan against reality to pinpoint exactly where things went off the rails. The second is modeled. Now, this is more like a crime scene reenactment. They build a digital twin of the project and then start testing what-if scenarios, asking questions like, what would the finish date have been if that big shipment of steel hadn't been held up for 2 weeks? But here's the thing. It doesn't matter which method they use. The entire investigation, the whole multi-billion-dollar question, it all boils down to understanding one single, central concept. This is the key that unlocks the whole puzzle. It's called the critical path. I want you to imagine the project schedule as this massive web of thousands of interconnected tasks. The critical path is the single longest chain of dependent activities that runs from the very start to the very finish. It is the project's backbone. Any delay to any task on this specific path will without a doubt delay the entire project's completion date. And that right there reveals the golden rule of delay analysis. For a delay to matter legally, to justify compensation or a time extension, it has to have impacted the critical path. A problem somewhere else might be a huge inconvenience, sure, but a delay on the critical path, that's a direct hit to the finish line. So, you might be asking, why don't other delays matter as much? Well, it's because tasks that are not on the critical path have this thing called float. Just think of float as built-in buffer time, like wiggle room. If a task has 10 days of float, it can be delayed up to 10 days without messing up any other task or pushing out the project's final deadline. It just uses up its own safety cushion. So after all this meticulous data crunching, and the modeling and the path tracing, you have to ask, why does any of this matter? Why go through this incredibly detailed forensic process in the first place? Well, the answer often comes down to this. The financial stakes are absolutely astronomical.
Correctly identifying who's responsible for a critical path delay determines who has to pay for all that extra time, the labor, the equipment, the resources. We're talking costs that easily run into the billions on today's mega projects.
But the verdict delivers more than just a dollar figure. A really sound analysis gives everyone a fair, factual basis to resolve these enormous disputes. And maybe even more importantly, the findings become these invaluable lessons, helping the entire industry understand the anatomy of failure so that future projects can be planned and executed way more efficiently. It helps us all build bigger and better.
Which kind of leaves us with one last thought. These analyses, they bring us as close to objective reality as we can possibly get. But in a project with a million variables and countless human decisions, is uncovering one single absolute truth ever really possible? Or is the analyst's real job to just construct the most reasonable, evidence-backed story of what happened?